Welcome to the BassandBigG.com Guntersville Grassroots podcast. Today is May the 16th of 2022, and the fish are biting. Trey's catching them.
They're biting.
I was catching them. The pros absolutely whacked them. It's I don't know what happened. We kind of called it a couple weeks ago, but dude, it's like they came to life.
Yep. This lake's on fire.
Right now.
Everything. Crappie, brim, bass, everything.
Yes, it doesn't matter.
Pleasure boaters. On fire right now.
The pleasure boaters, that spawn's fixing to really happen.
Yep.
But before we get started in this, we've got a pretty cool guest today. We're going to have Mr. Nick LeBrun that just won the MLF Big Five. I still call it the FLW, but it's Major League Fishing, FLW Pro, whatever. I knew a guy that knew a guy. I said, hey, you think we can get him on? And he said, well, here, call him. So he agreed to come on and talk to us. So here in just a few minutes, we're going to call him up and talk to him and see what kind of information he's got to share for us. They are whacking them. The weights are ridiculous. If they had pulled a little water over the pro events, there could have been several 30-pound bags.
Yep.
And it wasn't all deep.
No, it wasn't. There was more fish caught up shallow than. Well, I was going to say there was more fish than I thought, but I went out on Sunday or Monday or something like that before they started.
Last week, yeah.
Yeah, and I went up shallow, and I saw more fish up shallow than, like, I've never seen that many fish just swimming around.
Cruising, yes.
Just cruising on brim beds, some spawning, some fry garters. Like, there was so many fish up shallow. I was like, I could see that tournament being one up shallow.
And it could have potentially. I bet half the top 10
was fishing in the grass.
Was fishing in the grass, and even all of them at some point. Mixed it in.
Spencer Sheffield, I watched on live. He was fishing in the grass half the time, and then out deep half the time, and he led it for what, 2 or 3 days?
3. He led it all 3, which goes back to that whole zero thing, which is nah. But it is what it is. It's the game they chose to play. It adds a new dimension to it. I did not add up the numbers to see if LeBrun would have still won.
He would have still won. Yeah, I think me and my partner Daniel, we were fishing yesterday, and I think he did the math, and he said that he still wouldn't have won. So
he still would have. He would not.
Yeah, he wouldn't have won.
He wouldn't have
Nick
won.
LeBrun would have won.
Yeah. So kind of worked out.
Yeah. Kind
of the same anyway. But the weights. Even going back. Weekend before last, which was after we last talked, they had that really not a lot going on that weekend, and it was cold and it was weird because I tried to carry my wife and kids brim fishing on the coldest day in May in history. It was 58 degrees and misting, and the shell crackers had evacuated. There was a few bluegills up, but it was different. But that was a 2-day, that ABA Top 150 2-day. It took 40 and a half pounds, which is not bad.
Not bad.
And the first day of that thing, I don't know if you were here. I think you were around that Friday of that thing. The wind blew 30 miles an hour, legit, out of the south. I had a buddy of mine tell me that it was the roughest he had ever seen it. And there was no current. So if you just imagine if they put some current standing against that wind. But I mean, it was bad. So that really had a big factor in the weights. And then, that day the wind blew so hard, the boys out of Honeycomb took 24 pounds to win.
Yep.
Yeah, 20 boats and 24 pounds to win. Just another day on Guntersville. This past weekend in the rescue squad tournament, which was after the pros had been beating on them for 5 days, 69 boats. All right, 69 boats, which is not a bad turnout. $28.99. And that guy, that same guy had 20. He had a mere 22 or 3 pounds the next day. He didn't get a check in the little tournament in the Heartland, but I mean, he only had 22 or 3 pounds the next day. You know? But
only just 27, 22 back to back.
Right. And in that rescue squad tournament, there were 4 24-pound bags. How would you like to show up at a weekend tournament with almost 25 pounds and get second? I mean, I've done it before, and it doesn't surprise me. Surprising me a little bit this year. All of a sudden, the fish have just come to life. I mean, it's been kind of weird this spring and cold, and
I don't know. I mean, we've had a weird spring, and the winter. It's either like 12 months long or like a month here. The winter's either really short or really long. So it's been kind of weird.
Yeah, well, winter didn't get here till January because in Christmas you're wearing shorts.
Yep, exactly. It was sunny and 65 on Christmas, but
we ended up. I fished that thing Saturday, and my goal was to not go fish deep because I knew that's where the pros were kind of sitting, and I knew they were out there because we went last week and we caught them. I know you went and caught them a couple of days before they started, and we had 20 pounds and got 12th place, which it paid 20. So I got my money back plus a little. Yeah, and right. I burned 5 gallons of gas according to my SmartCraft gauge, so I barely left sight of Goose Pond.
That's right.
But we caught 20 pounds throwing a chatterbait on a slick sunny day in the grass.
Yep.
Riddle me that. So.
It's blown my mind. I mean, y'all caught them on a chatterbait in the grass, not around brim beds necessarily.
No, I was on the
grass,
river.
And then there's so many fish out deep right now, and there's so many fish on brim beds. Like
there's fish spawning.
Yep, there's still fish spawning. I know that for a fact. Yeah. I mean, it just blows my mind how many fish are in every stage you could think of.
Yeah, it's. That just tells you how many fish there are.
Yep.
And, it's easy to get in the, Guntersville's down and this or that. And then you have a week like the past week that we've had and go, oh, my gosh, what
and for everybody that's listening, we're not talking about just catching fish. I mean, it's
good fish.
Yeah, like 29, anywhere, like mid-20s is taking to win everything right now.
Trey won a Sunday afternoon Wildcat yesterday with pretty high 20s and just a few. And he said he caught them in an hour and a half.
Yep.
So
an hour and a half we had them, and it was. I mean, on my Rapala scale, we had 27.50, I think, in a 5-hour evening derby, and we had them in an hour and a half, and just babied.
And lost one bigger.
Yep, and lost one that would have put us at 30 because we had a 4.19, and I jumped off like a 7-pounder. On a 10XD.
Those fish said, the pros are gone. And then little Swindle comes rolling up in here and whoops the snot out of them.
That's right. That's how I like to do it. Just slip in there when everybody gets gone and say, no, they still live here, boys.
Was there much traffic out there?
Not really at all. I mean, there was just from our little tournament, there was a lot of that. And I think there was one at a honeycomb yesterday, too, I think.
There was a New Hope. The New Hope, and they kind of randomly do them, so I hadn't necessarily always been putting them on the website, but they've been having some New Hope high school fishing team fundraisers
exactly what it was,
out of Honeycomb, and they had one, and I forgot to throw it out on there, but they have been having those kind of randomly.
Yep. Now there was a lot of pleasure boaters weren't running around out there.
Keeps the eelgrass stirred up.
It does do that
because there's plenty of that.
Yep, still plenty of floating eelgrass.
That's just getting started. The pleasure boaters, between the pleasure boaters running in the places that I saw them running this weekend up around Goose Pond, is ridiculous.
Oh, it's crazy.
I wouldn't have a lower unit ever on my boat if I ran the places they run.
I had one, so I just got Mega 360 on my boat, the Humminbird Mega 360, and I got me a new graph. And I was going to rig my boat. All my electronics, I got it through a C-Clear harness. And I was just going to put a 12-volt, it's like a 63 amp-hour battery just for my electronics. Mm-hmm. And I had it at the house. And I was like, you know what? I've already got the battery here. Might as well try it and see if it holds up. So I rigged it up like that. Long story short, I rigged all my electronics up to one lithium battery to see if it would hold up when we fished that tournament. It didn't. Like 3 hours in, everything cut off. So I didn't even have no graphs. So I was just spot locked somewhere, I thought, around the school. And we were just having to cast. But I kid you not, we almost got run over 15 times. And I never moved my boat off spot lock because I didn't have graphs. So if I would
you didn't want to lose your spot.
Yeah, so I know I never moved. And we almost got run over 10 or 15 times. It's just crazy.
Oh, man. We were fishing, again, around Goose Pond, within a couple of miles all day. And there's a lot of that riverbank up there that's 3 foot with stumps and stuff like that. And I watched these guys, and some of them, there was some high school people now. There was a high school group out there too. There was a few boats with an adult and 2 kids running around that were as well. But now they're up on top of this. If you're above Pine Island, you need to know where the buoys are and how to read them.
Yep.
And they were running on top of the river channel above Goose Pond on the red buoy side that is knee deep.
Yeah,
in the
'cause
middle
you
of
could
it.
walk across that.
Yes.
I'm a short guy,
Yeah.
and I could walk.
Me and you could walk across it.
for 10 miles down
Yeah.
that riverboard.
And I was just sitting there shaking my head, going, "Oh my goodness!" And then the pleasure boats, that little last boat, it didn't matter. It blows my mind. So we could talk about that all day. I wish the requirements to drive a boat were just a little bit higher.
Yeah.
So of course I tell my daughter same thing with cars. She's 17, and I said, it only takes one lapse that day for you to be the dummy of the day.
Yep.
So maybe they're not always that way. Maybe it was just their moment to be the dummy of the day.
Yep.
But it only takes that one little second for in a car, particularly, to be that dummy of the day that's gonna make a mistake.
That's
But
right.
Baits of choice, you name it,
You want me to do it?
you do it. Yeah.
Let's see. We got this is from GTO at Waterfront, Paul and Jana over there. They said right now the best sellers are Senkos, which makes sense for all them guys catch them around brim beds, stuff like that, and swim baits, which we talked about offshore on river bars, ledges, shell bars, and big spoons and big worms, which makes every bit of sense if you watched any of the live on the coverage. I mean, it
Guntersville staple. Pick your color.
Is.
Reds, greens, depends on the day. It's interesting to me. Tell me why fish eat a black worm. Are they lampreys? Is that you think that's what it is?
I don't know. I'm weird. The only worms I throw is if it says bug on it. If it's June bug or red bug. If it says bug, they'll bite it on Guntersville.
I agree.
I don't care what it is. But
I'm a green pumpkin red bug guy. That's pretty and occasionally something real dark, June bug. But
they will bite I fished with Darian out here a little bit, and he brought some. I said, "Why'd you buy black Magnum trick worms?" He said, "That's all they had." He said, "It don't matter." He caught just as many on it as I did. And I'm a bug guy. Like I said, that's all I throw. And he caught just as many on it as I did it. He's like, "Dude, it don't matter."
That's interesting.
Yep.
If you're in fish that eating, you can catch them on anything.
Yep.
Sometimes I think there's times that I think it matters, but what it looks like in 20 foot of water, they may all look the same.
Yeah, you never know.
A lot of them guys were throwing chartreuse crankbaits. I caught them on a white one.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know.
That's the only thing on my crankbaits. I try to stay away from anything bright, especially if the sun's high, because you'll catch more white bass. Oh. And I hate getting them white bass.
They'll poke you.
Yeah, they'll get you if you ain't careful.
They'll get you. So, hey, we're going to see if we can get Mr. Nick LeBrun on here real quick and let somebody that really knows what he's doing tell us about fishing. We've got Mr. Nick LeBrun on, who just had a pretty good 4 days on Guntersville. Nick, first off, congratulations. Second, thanks for agreeing to come on and talk with two rednecks from Alabama.
Yeah, hey, well, thanks for having this Louisiana redneck, man. I appreciate
it. We got no real structure on how we're going to ask questions or what we're going to do. If I had to ask one right off the bat, it would be, number one, have you been to Guntersville before? And number two, how did you go about deciding what you were going to do? Practicing finding fish.
Sure. So, first time I've been to Guntersville was around 2015-ish. It was a Bassmaster Team Championship. Me and my partner, Randy Deaver, got third in the team bracket, got split up into individuals, had a 6-man classic fish off. I finished second. I missed going to the classic for about a pound. And that was kind of a long ride home.
Ooh.
Came back to Guntersville for a Toyota Series Championship in November of 2018. And that's the only two events I've ever fished out there. So
it's changed a little since then.
Yeah, I'm just as surprised as anybody that I won. And, I'd spent 75% of my practice shallow, frogging and trying to see where some spawners were, and also throwing a swim bait on some offshore shallow grass. And then the last 2 hours of practice on Tuesday, I noticed that they were running a lot of current. I said, man, I've seen a few boats out there, so I probably need to go out there and look a little bit. And I just jumped on that main river ledge and started idling with those Lowrance graphs and found that mega school and found the winning spot just like that. It was just totally random and totally a God thing.
Right. And it worked out for you. So did you fish that all 4 days, or did you mix in some grass, or what'd you do?
Yeah, I mixed in a lot of grass when I would reel it in.
There's no way around that.
But no, seriously, on day one, I started out there, and it looked like a cow pasture, and I stayed there an hour, and I had one 3.5 pound largemouth, and about 1 out of 10 casts would be efficient, and I was about to get spun out, because I was just reeling in eelgrass, and so I pulled the plug and went shallow. I scraped up about 13 or 13.5 pounds sight fishing and just kind of piddling around up shallow. And then I went back out there about 1:30 to see if it had cleared out, and it had. And I went out there and caught a few good ones and, survived day one, had like 16 something pounds, was in 298th place, and
yeah,
and ended up spending all day out there on day two, and the eelgrass wasn't as bad, and you could really see it in my results. And then the eelgrass was off and on day three, and it was off and on day four, but day two, I mean, it was clear all day, and it was awesome.
Yeah, and you were stroking them on that big J-Mag some too. That's one of my personal favorites. I like that big worm.
Yeah, that D&M J-Mag, it catches them when you're offshore and the water's warming up. And, I rotated a few different worms, a few different colors, but, I think you just had to kind of change it up. But, that J-Mag rigged on the mega shaky head that they have, it's a 3/4 ounce black. It's the one that I throw. And, man, if you get bit on that combination, it's going to go in the box 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, that's a 10-inch worm, big around as your index finger. I mean, it's big, big old long worm. I don't know what color you were throwing. I didn't ever see it, but
yeah, it's a few different ones. So I mixed it up between like any of the reds, and had green pumpkin and watermelon bluegill, and just had to kind of change it up.
Mm-hmm. Just a little variety from time to time.
So for the people listening, pretty much from what I gathered from it, you did most of your damage offshore. I mean, you mixed in some shallow stuff, but you did most of your weight damage offshore during the tournament, right?
Yeah, 18 out of 20 fish come from right there on that ledge. And I had 2 fish on day one that came on a V&M chopstick, bed fishing.
Mm-hmm. So just for everybody listening, when you got on that school, did you, cause for everybody listening, obviously he just won one of the biggest tournaments on Guntersville this year.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And offshore basically. So did you just stick with one bait? Did you just stick with your confidence bait, or do you like to get on a school out deep and kind of, vary your baits and give them different looks, or do you just stick with one thing and just say, I'm going to do it all day?
Yes, I'm a big fan of one rod tournaments. I like just having one thing to keep in your hand all day and just roll with it. But that spot was new to me. I mean, I'd found it the last hour of practice, and I made one cast on it. Wasn't nobody around, and I made one cast and caught a largemouth and left. And I didn't know anything about the lineups, and I didn't know that the eelgrass was going to be a big adversary. So
every day.
I rigged up a bunch of stuff. I mean, I had a big spoon, a couple different swim baits, deep diving crankbaits, Carolina rig, Morning Dawn straight shooter. I had all this stuff rigged up, but if I had to pick one thing out of all that, it would be that swim bait. I mean, that's what I like throwing the most.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's what you caught the big one on Sunday, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
did.
I missed that. I watched some of the live that morning before church, and then I didn't get to see much more of it after that. But I saw a highlight, I guess, of you. You know, well, I looked and you were down at the dam, and I went, I think that was you. Didn't you run down to the dam?
Yeah.
And I went,
did.
oh, that's not good. And just so you know, I'm very familiar with that spot you were fishing. So I was like, man, that's not good. And then I heard you mention the floating eelgrass, and we're all very familiar with the floating eelgrass on Guntersville. It's a love-hate thing, a lot of hate. But
yeah, my strategy is just drive down the lake till you see floating eelgrass, and there's probably 20 pounds sitting up under it. You can't get to them.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of felt like I need to be punching out there in a foot of water.
I know.
You know, and this morning we did day 5, the little story that they do, and went back there, and I mean, it was the worst I've seen it yet. You know, and
the eelgrass,
kind of wasted a bunch of time. Yeah.
I don't guess I knew they did a day 5. So
Yeah,
you went fishing again today.
It's a pretty cool deal. They just kind of do a story about how you caught them. If I'm pretty sure, ain't that what they do? You just kind of tell them how you caught them, what you caught them on.
A little recap.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
Be a video type deal. Yeah, that spot's pretty much toast for a minute now. So when I saw him and there was one pretty identifying object sticking out of the water there, and I went, oh no. Yeah, but
well, I mean, not even that. I mean, I was at waterfront all week staying, and you know, it's like day 2. I just got done whacking them, and the young man running the cash register says, "Oh man, that spot you're on is a good spot, man. We wreck them right there." I said, okay. Man, could you see the stump?
Yeah.
He said, "Oh no." He said, I just know where you are by looking at the towers and in the background.
Yeah.
It's a common known place. And I'm like, ugh, that kind of got me worried. But
oh, no doubt.
Man, nobody come out there all week. You know, it was pretty awesome.
I'll tell you where they were. They were down the lake, because if you drove over the Big River Bridge, there was boats you could walk across them down there.
Well, that's where Sheffield was too.
Yeah.
I fished a thing Saturday, and I knew where there was deep fish. Yours being one of the places. I never left sight of Goose Pond. I just couldn't bring myself to go down there and get in that mix. I heard it was a pretty bad zoo down there, and you know, you guys are only here for a few days, and I said, I'm just going to stay up here in the grass and see what happens. You know.
This morning, somebody was telling me that somebody sprayed water on somebody, and there was a lot of shenanigans going on this weekend, I believe.
Oh, it happens every weekend.
Oh, it's unbelievable out here.
People don't know how to act right anymore. There's no common courtesy left, and some of them are people that are old that you'd think knew better.
Yep.
I know. You know, and when I'm running down the lake and I see these young guys, and may not be young, but I see some guys that got 2 or 3 boats just piled up, rub rail to rub rail. Man, and that's not me. I mean, I'm 37 years old, but I'm old school. Like if you're on a waypoint, like that's your spot. I'm going on.
Yeah, come back later.
I'm not going to try to weasel my way in there, or I mean that's your spot. But man, a lot of these guys are like just piling up, you know, and
I don't see how you win that way.
Well, I don't think you can.
That's been the biggest learning curve for me fishing the opens and stuff. Is man, it's just some people just don't have any respect whatsoever, and it's so hard when you catch them somewhere and then somebody's sitting on it the next day. And I ain't even saying they watched you catch them. I'm just saying they're sitting on it, and then you run over there and then you're like, well, that's all I had. Now I can't get on it. Mm-hmm. And then you run around, you can't get on nothing else, and then you know it's just a cluster out there. It gets bad.
Well, and I think the original example of that started with some of the pros that were okay with coming in on people. And you know, some of them were agreed to do it. I think that my personal opinion is that and the Alabama rig, where everybody could pile up on each other at bridges and stuff, throwing it, because that started here. Yeah, it's just that's when it really went downhill.
Well, the problem is too. I think is you never see the background story on a live camera.
No.
So if me and Nick were sitting out there on the school, and me and him both knew we found it the first day, and we said, "Look, come on, we'll sit. You know, you can sit at the top, and I'll sit at the bottom. We're perfectly fine." The people on camera don't know that. They might just think I just rolled up right next to him. So then, what do they do when they see somebody sitting there? You don't know the whole story, so it's not that that's okay.
No.
Just to run in there and do it.
No, I agree.
Yeah,
So,
that's a good point.
so were you catching a bunch of fish every day, or I mean, when the grass let you? So, or just good ones?
Yeah. If the eelgrass wasn't there, I mean, I feel like I was catching on average probably 3 fish an hour.
Yeah.
Which I felt when you're from Louisiana and don't know what you're doing on them ledges, that's a lot of fish to me. But
it looked like you knew what you were doing. So,
yeah, it'd come in flurries. I mean, you might go 30 minutes without a bite, then you might catch 3 on 3 casts. You know.
Yeah, that's just the way it works. So, now, were they up on top, or were they pulled off on the side?
They were almost to the edge of the ledge on the shallow part.
Yeah.
So my main line with the swim bait, I'd be sitting in about 30 foot of water, and I would throw at, a shallow, and I was probably throwing that swim bait 130, 140 foot, and you would get bit on that first third of the retrieve. Like it was very rare to get bit halfway back or closer to the boat. So they were not quite to the edge.
Yeah. Were you using live stuff at all?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I found them on side imaging. I run a Lowrance, active imaging 3-in-1, but in the tournament, when you're up front, it's good to use Lowrance active target. That way you get lined up right. Okay, well, there they are. I can see them at about 100 foot. I run my range on, and you see where the fish are, and you think about how the current is, and you can kind of make the pinpointed cast to make sure that you're going to be coming through them.
Right. You at least know your bait's in the right place, whether they bite it or not.
Some people think that thing's just to see them, watch them eat it. It's not always that. As long as you can pan out there and tell your bait's going through them, that's all you need to know.
You just, yeah.
That's right. And and if you see 4 or 5 of them that follow it forever, then you might need to change something up. And it's more than just watching them eat it. It's their behavior, and it's how they're setting up. And, are they following each other to the boat when you catch one of them, that sort of thing. Because a lot of times when you catch one, you get into the boat and cool and throw him back, and your natural instinct is just to bomb it back out there. But sometimes you pull that school, like right there 40 foot from the boat, you may be able to take that smaller Kitech and just lob out there close and catch another one, rather than sling back out there where they were and they're not there right now.
That's pretty good information there. Paying attention. What kind of range are you running on your? I mean, how far out do you have your active target going?
100 foot.
100 foot. And I guess the deeper the water, the better image you get further out. Is that kind of the way that works?
Absolutely. Yeah. If I'm in, or the 100-foot range works really well. And you get shallower than that, you kind of got to bring it in a little bit. And I run my noise rejection on off. I mean, my screen is a little bit more cluttered and not as clear, but I can see my bait out there at 100 foot, and that's why I do that. I'm giving up some clarity to be able to see that bait way out there.
That's what a lot of people don't understand is just because the screen's clear don't mean that's not necessarily always what you want. I mean, sometimes with that, I got a Garmin's, but it's basically the same thing. If I have my screen to where it's clear, I miss fish and I can't see my bait. But if I run it to where it's a little bit cluttered, I can see it at, like you said, 80, 90, 100 feet out there.
Yep, that's important.
Your home lake is, what do you consider your home lake? Toledo Bend?
No, not Toledo. I mean, I've had a lot of tournaments there, but I probably had the most tournaments on Rayburn.
On Rayburn.
Now that's 2.5 hours from my house, but before I went pro, that's the BFL division that I fished a lot of team tournaments and, but I grew up fishing Caddo Lake, there was never anything major going on there, but that's just a shallow cypress tree lake with a lot of biggins in it. And, that's like probably truly my home lake. But when it comes to like tournaments and what I do now, I look back at Rayburn more than anything.
Speaking of Rayburn, I heard a story today. I run the Bass Cash Bash here on Guntersville, and I was talking to PD that owns it today, and I said, "Hey, I got Nick LeBrun coming on," and he goes, "Well, he was that guy, and then he wasn't that guy."
That's right.
Learned his lesson. So you caught one and weren't registered, and then turned around and caught maybe a prior year's tag this year, right?
Yeah, and I can't remember when I caught that first one. That was probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago.
Right.
Caught it on a rattle trap, fish and drains. I mean, I probably caught 100 fish that day. Caught one that was tagged, and I'm like, dang, I don't even think of when you're fishing all over, like
right.
Bass Cat a real thing, but it is okay, and like that's just not even on your radar.
Right.
But when I was getting ready for Rayburn, our pro circuit, I knew that I was about to be down there a bunch.
Did I lose you? I think we've had a technical difficulty. Well, we had a little technical difficulty, but I got Nick back on. You got to love cell service these days. So, and you're driving, so that hopefully on your way home for a day or two.
Yeah, I am. But anyway, so getting ready for pro circuit on Rayburn, I knew I was going to be down there a bunch fishing, and I was like, I better spend that $50 just in case. And ended up catching a 3-pounder out in the middle of the lake, suspended, and it had a tag from the prior year, and I think I won like $500 with that fish, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean it's almost a half a tank of gas.
Yeah,
and you got a pair of Bahio sunglasses out of it, I believe. So
yeah,
but, I hadn't put my hands on any of those yet. They're a new sponsor for us this year. But the prior year tag things, like we've had 4 caught in the last 2 weeks. Prior years here, it's weird. So
okay.
I was almost really that guy, so don't feel bad because I almost screwed up big time.
Yeah. So Trey's regular fishing partner 2 years ago caught the boat tag with Trey in the boat with him. But guess what? Trey wasn't registered.
Yeah, we were sitting on a deep school just like you was fishing, throwing a swim bait. It wasn't where you was fishing, but it was on Guntersville, and we were fishing and throwing the same swim bait. And I mean, I had caught like 20 in a row, and he hadn't had a bite, and he throws out there and catches one, and he's messing with it. And I mean, like I said, I'm not, and his stepdad was in the boat too, and they're both registered, and I'm not. And I was like, guys, they're biting, like, come on. So they come up there, and like I said, I was the only one in the boat that wasn't registered, and my partner caught it literally standing right next to me, throwing at the same freaking school, and won a boat.
Wow.
I've had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah.
And
I would have never let myself live that down if I'd have caught it.
And the real interesting part of that is like Trey caught a tag, registered the first year.
Yep.
He just didn't register before. Of course, he goes, man, I was broke. I respect that. So
it wasn't that I didn't want to. It was just that's a gas. I mean, that's a trip. That's gas in the boat.
I respect that. So what's your next stop, Nick?
James River in about a month. That's another tackle warehouse pro circuit.
Yeah.
I'll pray for you.
You don't like it? Is that where you went
That's
not long
where
ago?
I went, Virginia, yeah.
Yeah. He said he didn't care for that very much. So, have you been there before?
I've never been there, and it's going to be an interesting one, but I'm just hoping to carry this momentum on up there and keep it rolling.
So you've had a pretty good year, right?
I have. Got to fish the Bassmaster Classic in March. Finished 18th in my first Classic.
Wow.
And, went to Harris Chain, and that was the worst finish of my career. Just wheels kind of fell off, but came back to Pickwick, got a top 10, finished 9th. Went to Ross Barnett the next week, finished 2nd, and had a week off. come up here to Guntersville and got the win. So
yeah, momentum's on your side right now. So
good month.
Did you fish the Open at Ross Barnett?
I did.
How are you sitting in the Open points?
I'm in second.
Second. Oh yeah, because that was the first Central, wasn't it?
yeah,
I've got all my mixed up. I'm fishing all 9, so I don't even know what's going on. But
Yep.
that's awesome.
how many years have you been fishing pro?
2019 was my rookie year, so 4 years.
Yeah, starting it. Yeah. But,
Yep.
Are you clearly for the last couple of months you've enjoyed it? And I'm just a real estate appraiser. I have no desire to fish pro. I just like to go fishing. And Trey over here, is working his butt off trying to go pro. Are you glad you've done it? Is it just something you love?
Oh yes, you gotta love it.
Yeah.
If you don't love it, you'll find out real quick. And yeah, it's it's the path that Jesus wants me on, and it's just real cool to get some confirmation of that every once in a while. And I love what I do, and I love having opportunities to use fishing to share my story and all that God's done in my life. And I haven't got tired of it yet, and we're going to keep on going.
Right. You got to have a good woman standing behind you to run that life, don't you?
Yeah, my wife Jolene is my biggest supporter, and she got to come to the weigh-in at Guntersville, about 9:55 yesterday. I'm thinking, man, I asked my wife to drive 8 hours, and I made 0 today. And then everything changed, but yeah, I've got 2 twin boys that are 5 and a 2-year-old girl, and there's a lot of traveling with this job, and my wife works herself, and she does a great job at managing the kids while I'm gone, and I couldn't do what I do without her. She doesn't stand behind me; she stands beside me, and sounds like an old country song, but
it kind of does. But you got to have that.
It's good.
That's awesome, man. I can't thank you enough. You don't know me. We had a mutual friend, and I reached out, and he gave me your number, and I can't thank you enough for agreeing to come on and talk with us. And I do want to hear, before I let you go, I want to hear Trey's story. They were talking about you taking his money somewhere.
Oh, yeah, Grand Lake. I'm just a little butthurt that you took my money at Grand, that's all.
Was that an open?
That was when I got disqualified from the championship at Smith, and I drove overnight to go to Grand, to the Open.
Oh, for the ABT thing.
And then got my teeth kicked in there, too, by him, so... That was all. I mean, congratulations. It did hurt my feelings a little bit.
That is the nature of the game.
All you had to do was pick up a plopper and go to work.
Well, that's easier said than done, because I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, I'm a buzzbait guy. I'm a swindle, so maybe I should have swapped my buzzer out for a whopper plopper.
Was that the ticket up there? Was it whopper plopper? No float eelgrass up there?
No, he didn't have no float eelgrass to deal with.
I just had some old rusty dock cables to deal with.
That might be even worse, trying to get a 4 or 5 pounder over one of them dock cables over there.
Are they all floating docks?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could see that being fun. So, well, Nick, I really appreciate it. Have a safe trip.
Yeah, man. Thank y'all for having me.
Good luck on your next tournament. And if you come back to Gunners, we'll give us a shout and we'll take you to dinner.
Yeah, congratulations, man. We appreciate you coming on.
I'll take you to dinner. Trey still owes me a cheeseburger from a bet we made a month ago. So
maybe I'll have to buy both of y'all's dinner.
Right on, guys.
Thank you, sir. You have a great day.
Okay, see y'all.
Thanks again to Nick for taking time to come on and talk with us. It's kind of humbling to have a big name come on and talk with 2 little old Alabama rednecks like us. So, of course, he said, well, I'm glad you let the Louisiana redneck come on to talk with you. But he did a great job. Good information. Super nice guy. Just won $100,000. Pretty good 4 days work.
Yeah.
I think I'd take a couple of days off.
That's right.
And he had to go fishing this morning.
That's right.
Coming up this weekend, Foodland tournament, $100 entry. They've still got some slots. I think that's probably because they scheduled it on top of an ABT.
Yep, because I was really wanting to fish.
Yeah, but it was like last week they were advertising they had like 30 spots left. So it's 200 boats. They cap it at 200 boats. First place, $10,000. I'm fishing it. I wish I wasn't. I hate ledge tournaments because it turns into such a zoo. I love ledge fishing. You might not have to fish ledges to win it since it's 3 fish, but you probably will.
Yep.
So, but I can name about half a dozen places that you're not going to be able to get on because these guys. But man, the weights on Guntersville are ridiculous right now.
They are. It's just unreal. I mean, and for for everybody listening, there's a lot of people around here that all they talk about is how it's not what it used to be, and Guntersville's just going downhill. I mean, I hate to say it, but they're wrong.
They are. It's in a cycle.
Yep. Now, I'm not saying day in and day out, it's what it was 10 years ago, but you can't look at the weights we've had the past week and tell me that this lake ain't on fire.
Not just the pros.
Yeah, not just
from
the pros.
top to bottom.
And I'm talking about not pro fishermen, just a wildcat Sunday evening, Monday evening tournaments, Monday mornings, whatever. Just older fellas that like to fish around here. It's taking mid-20s to win.
I am one of those older fellas.
Well, I mean, I'm getting up there too.
Oh, 22. Yeah.
I feel like I'm 40.
Were you sore today after fishing 4 hours yesterday?
No.
I'd say I was pretty sore yesterday from fishing 8 hours Saturday. But
and I reeled that 10XD like it stole from me. So
yeah. But yes, I mean the weights, the 3 to 4 pounders. Some of the guys that are out there, Lonnie Cochran, Tim Chandler, and some of they've all been saying there's a really good population of fish that they've been scattered up. Timing wise, the current came on for a few days, which really pulled them out. I think that's what made them jump out on the ledges.
Yeah.
And it got hot. It finally shook off the 3rd, 4th winter we had this spring. And the current's key. Without the current, those fish can be really grumpy. Y'all got anybody that watched the live on the FLW the last 2 days got to see that. I mean, those fish were there, and with today's technology, you can see them. Whether they're on a point, a cut, a ditch, or creek, or whatever, you can see them. And then they just stick their nose up in there and don't bite you back.
Just because you can see them don't mean no bite.
Matter of fact, it's going to make it harder for them to bite because you were talking about one of those places you went, them smallmouth were running from a lure because they'd been live scoped to death.
Yep.
But yeah, the weights. You had a 69 boat tournament on Saturday that I was in. Well, I was 12th with 20 pounds. And there might have been one more 20-pound bag under me. 70 boats.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it ain't like that's a 250 boat, ABT or nothing. I mean, that's just a 60, 70 boat benefit tournament.
Right.
Taking 100%
weight. What's it going to take this weekend in the food land? 3 fish.
3 fish, I bet it takes 21.
You think it's that big? I would have said 19, but it depends. It depends on the current.
It does,
and the floating eelgrass.
I know it'll take 18 to 19, but I mean, I just got to say somebody's going to catch a 7, 8, 9.
If they keep biting the way they've been biting, if it doesn't change, and I think they're still coming. I think they're just getting started.
Yeah, I think they're. I mean, some of them fish we caught yesterday evening was just. I mean, they shouldn't have weighed but 5 pounds, and they're
gorging
6.5.
themselves on shad.
Yep.
We had one throw up a bull shad size shad the other day. I mean, it was huge.
I mean, for anybody listening that's out of town, if y'all were looking to come to Guntersville to fish, I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like now the next 2 weeks would be a good time to come. I mean,
and it doesn't matter if you want to fish shallow grass or deep.
Yep. I mean, like we talked about, I mean, there's so many fish on Roman bluegill beds and brim beds. There's fish out deep. There's just fish in the grass. On a river bars. On a chatterbait. There's fish. You heard Nick say he was catching some on a frog.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just so many fish scattered everywhere.
I got a buddy picked up a swim bait over some lily pads and caught 3 4-pounders Saturday, just back to back. But it was brim bed related. I mean, he said there was some brim beds up in there, but he didn't realize it to start with. He just saw one move and threw it out there, and then he caught 3.
Yep.
I mean, it fish your strength.
Yep.
Whatever you want. Out of Goose Pond, there's a John Woodall Memorial Tournament, and it's 5 fish. There's 2 kayak tournaments this Saturday, 5/21 on Goose Pond, or not on Goose Pond, on Guntersville. One of them I think is technically out of Goose Pond, but they go wherever. Watch out for the small boats. Don't run over them. That's a really growing thing. Yep. But on Sunday, Trey, you might ought to go get in that.
You ain't lying.
There's a Guntersville Open. Which is a group of folks that have run some various tournaments. They just kind of randomly pop up here and there.
Yep.
But that's going out of Waterfront. I think they've kind of run 2 tournaments. They got like a $25 low entry, and then they got a $125 high entry.
Yep.
Or you can fish one or both or whatever. There was a thing scheduled. They started out being a MLF format deal that was going to be a team thing. Then it changed to a one-day megabucks deal. I actually went to look about that today, and they have canceled it.
Yep.
because they didn't have enough entrants because it was $2,000 to fish it.
I mean, that they said, it was $650 and nobody would pay that. And they upped it to $2,000.
Yeah.
So I was really wanting to fish it, but
at $2,000.
But then they changed it to $2,000. It was just it wasn't a team tournament. It was just a solo tournament. So me and my partner were going to fish it, but we were like,
$2,000 team tournament they might would have gotten some,
maybe. But 600. But the thing about it's an amateur tournament. You're not going to have people around here pay $2,000.
No, and right now I think pros are at the Bassmasters at Fork. Yep. The FLW guys just finished up here. They've had enough floating grass for a day or two.
Yep.
They're not going. On Saturday the 28th, there is a tournament going out of Goose Pond called the Big One. It's put on by Victory Sportsman tackle store in Scottsboro. That it's a fundraiser for something in Scottsboro. It's a big fish tournament.
Just one fish.
One big fish. One big fish. I think it's $100 per person. Payout was pretty good on it. I don't have the flyer with me. I should have, and I don't have it in front of me. And I left my laptop in the other room, so I can't. But yeah, it's going to be a good event if you're around and want to fish that. There'll be a Heartland that day. Had a new one come in June the 4th, which is a little ways out, but there's not anything substantial on the calendar for June other than the Wildcats, which is unusual. There used to be several good tournaments in June.
I don't know who had one. They had one last year that I really enjoyed. It was a Tuesday night at All Reds. The entry fee was a little bit steeper. It was $60.
They've been toying with that again, but they have not.
I hope
they're moving it to Wednesday, I think.
See, I wouldn't care, but they only have that one at a Browns on Sunday evenings that I fished yesterday, and there's none during the week. But that one at All Reds, it was a $60 entry fee, and it was worth fishing. You won when I won it by myself.
That's 4 gallons of gas.
Yeah, when I won it by myself, I got a quarter of a tank of gas and a cheeseburger, and I won $800.
Did you really?
Yeah, but really.
So it had a good number of boats.
When I won first and big fish, I won around $700 to $800.
Yeah, that's a good afternoon's work.
And it had 15, 20 boats at $60 a piece.
$6 a head.
Yeah, and I think they only pay. They don't do no crazy pay. It's like I think
1 in 10.
1 in 10, I think. Yeah. So now you basically got a winner come in second, but I'd rather do that and make a little bit more money.
Yeah. The new edition one in June is out of Browns Creek, which is on your end of the river. It's a $100 entry, and they had a $1,500 first place guaranteed prize. It's a casting for Colton. It was a fundraiser. I have a flyer that I'll post out on the Bass and Big G page, but you got Wheeler coming up this weekend.
I do. I'm excited about that.
What?
I'm excited about it.
Last time we talked, you said, I can't ever catch it.
Well, for some reason, Wheeler's never great to me, but it's never bad, if that makes any sense. Like, I'm always pretty consistent there. I think the past 2 times we went, I've had 14 to 15 pounds. Now, granted, didn't get me much, but I've always been.
You felt accomplished.
Yeah, I felt accomplished. 14, 15 pounds for me at Wheeler's like 30
I agree.
on Guntersville.
No, I agree. Wheeler's always had my number.
Yeah, it might take 30 to win there, but by God, if I caught 15, I'll be happy. So
after what we just saw on Guntersville this past week, do you think Wheeler's going to outshine that this weekend?
I don't.
You don't.
I think the weights are going to be higher than you think they're going to be, but I don't think it'll top Guntersville. I don't think. With it getting so hot, it's not really the time of the year where below the dam really shines. It's
thank goodness.
Yeah, thank goodness it's not. I think it'll take low to mid-20s to win, but I think top 10 will be 18 pounds.
Do you?
I do. I just think I went over there the other day and they're not everywhere. But it might take 30 to win and 20 to get in the top 10. I don't know.
It also depends on whether they pull any water.
Yeah, pull water and It just, I don't know. I'm anxious to see, though. I really think mid-20s, low to mid-20s to win, 22, 25, something like that. And then 17, 18 pounds of top 10, and I think 14 pounds will get you paid. I think the weights will be stacked, but not real high.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you catch any smallmouth when you were there?
No smallmouth when I went. I was kind of surprised because the way we caught them and where we caught them was, where
potentially for smallmouth.
Yeah.
They're just random. They just kind of show up when they show up.
Yeah.
So I know, and that I guess a couple of weeks ago when on the ABT podcast, Kay and Chris were talking about it, and Kay was thinking it was really going to show out. And, Wheeler has 100% gotten better.
Yep. I think it's going to be a fun one. I do. I think I just don't think it's going to be no bunch of low to mid 20-pound bags. I don't think.
Yeah,
but I think
3 or 4.
But I think it's fishing like Guntersville in ways where you can catch them doing lots of things. I think it'll be a cool tournament. I just don't think it's going to be a slugfest.
Right.
But for Wheeler, as we know it, I think it'll be big. I think weights will be big as we know it.
What do you see changing on Guntersville the next 2 weeks before we meet again? Not a lot.
Not a lot, I don't think, in 2 weeks. Now, I think 3 to 4 weeks, I think
It's
the
summer.
brim bed fish, they're going to start dissipating. I think most of them are all going to be out deep. I mean,
or in the deeper grass.
or in the deeper grass. Yeah, I don't think you'll be able to just go up shallow on the bank, throwing a worm at brim beds and catch them anymore. It just won't be that easy.
Not as many anyway.
Not as many, yeah. But I think I'm anxious to see when they all start moving out, which, like I said, I'm not saying every fish in the lake goes offshore, but, the majority of them get out
Well,
there.
I mean, offshore is relative. You can be, riverbank stuff upriver. Those are what you call a river bar. I call a riverbank. But, whether you're on the riverside or the backside, you still, they'll get out there in that 9, 10, 11 foot on those edges. And that's offshore, and they're still 20 yards from 3 foot of water.
Yep.
Yep.
And that's true. Offshore don't necessarily mean 20 feet on a shell bar.
No.
It don't necessarily mean that. But they'll all get off the bank, and I'm anxious to see. The way I like to fish out deep is in 18, 20 on a big crankbait. I'm just anxious to see the number of fish everybody's catching. What it's like when they all get out there where I'm at, where I like to fish.
I'm interested in it too, and I'm going to start. I think I may work on Saturday and go fishing on Wednesday so I can see what it's like to be a swindle.
That's right.
And
you should. It feels nice.
I did it last. I'm not going to lie to you. I did it last week. I went Wednesday afternoon. I said I want to get some of these for the pros win, and it was good.
Yeah,
it was good. I saw you.
You don't have to fight everybody to get somewhere.
No, it was way too good, and that's when I thought, man, they're going to whack them. And if they hadn't turned the current off, there would have been some 30-pound bags. There's no doubt.
Yep.
So,
but, I mean, hats off to the guys, because with no current, and you heard a lot of them guys concerned about that.
Yeah.
But even with no current, and no wind, a lot of them days they fished there was a lack of wind. You can get away with a lack of current if there's some wind to help
Yes.
it. But they didn't have either a couple of days, and they still, I mean, the weights were...
The fish were just biting.
They were just biting.
I said we caught them on a chatterbait in 3 foot of water when it was slick and sunny the other day. And riddle me that, because I wasn't expecting to throw dingers and worms.
Yep.
And it just didn't work out that way. So I think that's a wrap. Mr. Swindle, good luck to you at Wheeler. I'm looking forward to hearing that story when we come back here in a couple of weeks.
Maybe we won't have to have a guest because I'll be the winner. So
That's right. That's right. Maybe I can win Foodland this weekend, and you'll interview me, and I'll interview you, and we'll just call it a day.
That's
Say
right.
that would almost be interesting. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not expecting me to win Foodland. I'd like to get a top 10 out of it. I've been teetering on the edges of some of that, but it takes a special lucky kind of day to win.
Especially with the caliber of fishermen you're going to have.
Oh, absolutely.
Willie Staten, I'm calling you out. You'll have 17 pounds for 3. And Gil Summerlin, y'all have 17. I saw him yesterday.
Did you?
I took his money yesterday.
He was there?
Yeah, I didn't take but $25 from him. But I took some money from
a little bit at a time. I've had a few of those guys over the years, and they're like, man, I sure do enjoy that random occasion that I get just a little bit of your money.
So that's what he told me before he left. He said, "Until next time, little swindle." He said, "Until next time." I'm like, trust me, I know it's coming.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. We appreciate the support and everybody that's listened. If you enjoyed it, like, share, tell your friends, and enjoy the floating grass.